We're back for another podcast, and with us today we have George Byczynski, a Pole, but a Pole who has been living in the UK for many, many years and has been working actively with the Polish community on the British Isles. Welcome to the podcast, George.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell me, how many years ago did you move to the UK, and what was the reason for moving?
That's quite a while now. Probably about 15 years ago, I decided to come to London. I thought maybe after a few years I would go back to Poland or elsewhere, but I really fell in love with the UK, with London. I decided to stay after my studies. I currently run the British Polls. I'm the chief editor of that media group, and I'm also a political advisor.
15 years ago or so, a lot of Poles were making the move to the UK. Hundreds of thousands of Poles quickly moved to the UK. How was the atmosphere back in the UK back in those days, and how is it compared to how Poles are perceived today?
Definitely, from the perspective of the people who hired Poles, they were enormously happy because the Polish work ethic is absolutely incredible. Polish people come earlier to work, they don't have 10 tea breaks, they just really respect being in the UK. They don't bring the law. Polish people are the model migrants, but with so many Polish people, there had to be some tensions. At the job market, Polish people took over so many jobs in so many sectors. So there were some tensions between Poles and Brits, but it has really eased out. Firstly, because so many other migrants came, including illegal migrants who do not want to work, who only want social benefits, who are really not contributing to the society. British people have realized, wow, these Polish people, many of them are mostly Christians. They do a tremendous work. They help to build our society. So eventually people have realized that Poles have a very good opinion. And I think after all those years, people have noticed that Poles are somebody that they really want to come to the UK.
Also, in recent years, there has been a major shift. We had Brexit back in, was it 2015 or 16? I've forgotten by now. And then we had also COVID in 2020, which initially was very tough with lockdowns in the UK. And it made a lot of Polish people to move back. Is this something that British people are also noticing, that there aren't as many Poles back in the UK now as there was a couple of years ago?
I don't think this is noticed, because maybe if there was about 1 million Poles and about 100,000 or maybe 150,000 left, that's not such a major difference. Poles are still everywhere. They're doctors, they're accountants, they're just all over the place. But there are obviously other migrants. I mean, if you walk around London, for example, there are Italian waiters, there are French everywhere. There's so many people, Spanish people, Slovakian, lots of Romanians. So these are the nationalities that you see a lot. Look at Lithuania, for example. 250,000 Lithuanians moved from a country that's barely 3-4 million. So these are also minorities that are greatly noticed. Less and less Poles are visible at the universities, because before it was much easier to study in the UK, but Polish people still come. So they're still visible, but it's much more difficult now after Brexit. Interestingly, people in the UK voted for Brexit, and one of the key reasons was to lower the migration. But the migration has not lowered. It's less Polish people and more people from India, from Pakistan, Bangladesh, other countries. So there is still a huge migration to the UK, but there's less Europeans coming in.
We heard the leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, saying that according to new research, Poland could become a wealthier country than the UK by 2030. Then there were some articles in the press about the same issue. This image of a UK in crisis and Polish economy and Eastern Europe booming, is this something that you hear from time to time?
Everybody is noticing the development, the growth, the boom of the Polish economy. There are articles in the Telegraph and the Guardian, pretty much everywhere, noticing this Polish miracle. So, and of course the rearmament. There are so many articles, so many people are speaking about Polish army becoming one of the strongest in Europe. So that is definitely the case. And also people always notice that Poland is probably the safest country in Europe. I know so many people from the UK, they go to London or around, when they go to Poland and they go to Warsaw and they go to Krakow and other cities, and they just never felt safer. They don't need to worry about their phone, their wallet. They absolutely love it, even during the evenings and the nights. So that's noticeable.
And how has London changed over the years that you have been living there, especially when it comes to this security issue? Because we hear a lot in the media about knife crime, for example. This is one of those things that you read a lot about when it comes to life in London.
Yeah, knife crime amongst youth is a real thing. Everybody speaks about it. People around the Ministry of Education, people in the Ministry of Interior, everywhere you hear, how do we deal with the knife crime? And nobody knows how to prevent it. The Conservatives are now implementing new laws that will ban zombie knives, all sorts of other weapons that people would carry with them for no reason. We had the Notting Hill Carnival recently, stabbings again. So it's something that worries a lot of people, and they can't really find a solution. They think, okay, maybe we need to give more sports to the youth or more psychologists, etc. I remember once I attended a meeting where a British MP asked a Polish MP, how do you deal with the knife crime amongst youth in Poland? The Polish MP said, we don't have youth knife crime in Poland. The other gentleman said, how is that possible? He said, I don't know, maybe it's because we still value morality, we still cherish family, we still have values, and people just don't need to be the cool guy that carries a knife, just like the other guy in the hood. No, they learn from their parents, they learn from the society that maybe you don't need to be stabbing each other. It's a major difference.
Yes, absolutely. In Poland, back in the 1990s, the wild 90s, so to say, there were some problems with organized crime back then, but since the turn of the millennium, it really hasn't been an issue in Poland. However, when it comes to safety issues across our eastern border, the situation is very much different. And you have just returned to Ukraine. What did you see over there? What was the general first impression, so to say, when speaking with Ukrainians?
I have very fond memories of Ukraine because before the invasion, I visited a number of times. I lived there for a few months, and this hospitality that I enjoyed was really enormous. So now when an opportunity came up to travel to Ukraine, I took it and I went there. Many people asked me, was I afraid? And I just thought, statistically, nothing will happen to me. Statistically, if you go around big cities, you will be fine. So I decided to go, and it was really an eye-opening experience because from the sort of Western Europe perspective, we see refugees and we hear stories. But when you go to the cities that have been destroyed, when you see areas that really look sort of like Warsaw after the Warsaw Uprising 1944, where you have no home standing and people have no electricity, no gas, no water, they need to go 10 kilometers to get some water, it's really terrifying. And when you speak to them and feel their emotions, it's very different. But of course, the situation again is different if you go to Kiev, that is relatively safe, and if you go around Kherson Oblast, where a lot of people have nothing, you learn a lot, and you see what impact does the war have and how much we can learn from that, and what should we do to really prevent it from moving western further in Ukraine and in Europe as well.
Yes, you did not limit yourself to go just to some of the big cities in the western part of the country that are fairly safe, but you were not very far from the front lines in areas which have been intensely struck by missiles and Russian artillery and so on. What kind of group did you go there with? Because you didn't go on your own.
Yeah, I went with the UK Friends of Ukraine, which included a number of MPs, which included people who work in British politics, and as well with the Lord Mayor of Leeds, because she was there to twin the cities of Leeds and Kharkiv, which is another great thing to do, because you will have better understanding between the two cities if you build such sort of a relation. So I truly enjoyed it, and I thought it was a very good group of people who realized that pushing away Russia is just simply in our interest too. It brings more stability. If we had Russian tanks in Lviv, aimed at NATO, we would be under much more stress, and the debate with Russia would be completely different. So it's in the interest of every European to just push Russians a little bit further away.